nationwide biker safety campaign. My name is Negimote Hansen, and I remain the president Bikers in Nigeria. This event has been brought to you by Bikers in Nigeria in conjunction with BSI and SCAN. Over the past 6 days, we have touched various safety topics ranging from gears to riding in groups, etiquette for riding in groups, riding solo, simple DIYs, and also not limiting it to our machines, but also extending it to our personal health concerning first responder situation and also riding with the right mindset. For today, we are going to be looking at how to learn to ride the right way, structured learning versus. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you now.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Sorry for that breaking transmission. Okay, and for us, we feel there is no better person but our own AY Sugar, who is the convener for Safe Ride Riding School in Lagos. So ladies and gentlemen, please pop up your engine, turn on your engines, and let's do some reps for our own AY Sugar. He'll be handling today's session. As usual, if you have questions, just note them down in the comment section or hold on till the end of the session. Please do not forget to mute your mics as you get it. And let's enjoy today's session. Over to you, Sugar.
Thank you, Nengi. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, DSI. As he said, my name is AY Sugar. I run the riding school in Lagos, Safe Rider Motorcycle School. Today we're talking about learning to ride the right way. Learning from a riding school versus learning on the streets. So when I got this topic, it kind of threw me aback because I started thinking learning from the streets. What exactly is learning from the streets? I had to actually even now do my research on that because I wouldn't exactly know what exactly learn on the streets when it comes to motorcycle riding. And it's the way I see it, it's like when we do like a versus, it's like a no-brainer because basically what happens when you're learning from the streets is you're probably going to just get information from every and anywhere you can find it, and without any proper backing, in terms of maybe whoever is giving out that information, is the person a certified trainer, is the person certified to even give that information. You go up on YouTube and you see all sorts of people giving advice about riding, and by the time you check their profile, you realize they just started riding in maybe like 2 months or in less than 2 months or thereabout. And you now realize that, even if the information they're giving is valid, they're not, a solid source for writing information, So that takes us to learning from a riding school. Like I said, there isn't so much to get from someone who just, you find a mechanic and he tells you, oh, okay, this is the clutch, this is the accelerator, this is the back brakes and the front brakes, do this and do that. He's not certified to do that. So you're taking a risk pretty much. There's something I say all the time, you fail to prepare to fail. If you don't do something the right way, you don't have the right foundation, it would affect the eventual outcome. So learning from a school, a proper structure would definitely be beneficial to anyone who wants to learn to ride. You want to get a wealth of information when you want to learn something as delicate as riding a motorcycle. At the school, I say it all the time that when you come to learn, you're making one of the most important decisions of your life. You might have whatever degree, millions in the bank, or billions in the bank, but making a mistake on a motorcycle could make that all just go up in smoke. It will mean nothing, So yeah, so let's go into. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay. So the first question is, what is learning to ride the right way in the first place? It's getting someone who has a wealth of experience. It's getting someone who has a wealth of experience to teach you. It's hopefully the person is certified by whatever laws govern wherever you are learning. The person is actually certified to teach because they're actually trainer courses that should be taken before you embark on teaching people to ride a motorcycle. So you want to. Sorry, I'm trying to move to my next screen. So there are pertinent questions that a good motorcycle school should ask. It's not just about, you want to learn to ride and, okay, let's teach you. Like I said, the foundation, getting to know the student is important. So there are certain questions you ask. Question number one that we would ask is, why do you want to learn to ride? Why do you want to learn to ride? Is it just to possess a new skill, or it's just been a long-term dream? I categorize those together because they usually come hand in hand. Some people just have it the same thing. They call it their bucket list. Riding a motorcycle has always been on their bucket list. They didn't have the guts to do it when they were younger. So, or certain family members didn't allow them to do it, and now they're old enough, or they feel they can make this decision and they're ready to do it. So, the reason you ask these questions is so that you kind of have, an idea what the person wants to get out of riding. These are things you definitely not happen upon when you're going to the streets. They don't really care about all that information. You want to get to ride, let's get you on the bike and let's move. So you once I know that, okay, it's just a skill, so then it doesn't really matter what kind of bike you start with. If you just want to learn a new skill, or it's just been a lifelong dream. It doesn't matter what bike you get. So you're not talking about, you have to get a street bike, or you have to get a sports bike, or a cruiser, or whatever. You can get anything you want because you're not thinking of commuting or any of that. So number two is adventure and touring. You intend to do a lot of traveling. You've seen other bikers do it. Something you want to do. So obviously, when you finish, you're thinking of, okay, this is the type of bike I want to get because this is what I intend to do. Daily commutes. Obviously, you're going to be going to work every day. There's certain things to pay attention to when you're commuting every day. You want a street bike, most likely. You want an engine capacity that isn't too high, because it doesn't make sense. You're riding a 1,000cc every day. You're trying to maneuver your way through traffic. It's a bit of inconvenient. So, and besides, high engine bike, capacity bikes, they don't want to be sitting in traffic. Even though you're trying to meander your way through traffic or filter through traffic, they don't really want to be stationary. You have the weight issue as well. So things like that you have to consider. So you, from the beginning, like I said, it's a foundation. From the beginning, you start to talk to the students. You try to intimate them on the the kind of decisions they need to make when they finally do their road test and get out. They already have a foundation of how to think, when getting a motorcycle. They're not just thinking, oh, this is what I like, this is what I saw in the movie, this is what I saw on Instagram, this is what I saw my role model biker riding, and this is what I want to get. You begin to think more of purpose for, what purpose you're riding for, as opposed to what you prefer. You begin to prioritize this kind of thing. So you just get the learner or the newbie thinking, in the right direction. And so when you even start to have conversations with them later on, they begin to understand that they're digressing from why they wanted to ride. And even if they do, it's okay, but they must know that they've digressed and they need to rethink things. Did they do it willingly, or was it peer pressure? So all of these type of things, the thought process is important as well. Lastly, stunting and content creating. Yes, so that it can also be a reason you want to ride. Some people come in. In fact, I have a student that just graduated last weekend, and that was his main reason for wanting to ride. Content creating and stunting. And like I said, once you have this information, you're able to guide the students as to how best to go about this. Of course, at Safe Rider, we're not a stunt school or anything, but we're well aware that stunting is part of motorcycle riding. People want to, it's at our events, it's a colorful part of events, a segment of stunting all the time. And there are ways to stunt safely, and these are the things. So because we have this information, we can educate on all of this, that okay, you want to stunt, but of course, before you start thinking of stunting, you need to, like a baby, before you walk, you must crawl. Before you walk, you must crawl. Before you crawl, by the time you start walking, run, fly, you just don't, you have to plan these things properly. So so I'll say I'll give you like a 6 month at least to a year of constant riding, to perfect your skill, be one with your motorcycle, so that by the time you go to a stunt school, you understand the basics before you start, trying to pop a wheelie or do a stoppie or what have you. So, yes. Sorry. All right, so other questions you would ask is things like, do you possess a driver's license? You would ask that, just so you know if they have prior knowledge of the highway code. I don't expect that you have a driver's license, quote unquote. In Nigeria, most times you do. It's a form of identity, but if you have a driver's license, it means you know the highway code. You know where to place yourself on the road. Because if you don't know how to do these things, it becomes an issue. It becomes an issue when I'm teaching or when an instructor is teaching, because they could get frustrated without that information. You do certain things and you wonder why this person is behaving this way on the motorcycle. Then you stop to ask, and you find out this person has never driven a car, and doesn't really know how to place themselves on the road. So it affects their riding. It affects how they position on the bike, how they position on the road, and all of that. Even in a parking lot, they don't really understand direction and all of that, because they're learning something new and it's completely foreign to them being on the road. So yeah, so those are questions you ask. Do you know how to ride a bicycle? This is like, if you don't know how to ride a bicycle, it means you don't have balance, and that's like a completely, I say that it's complete novice and stranger to balance. to two wheels completely, because even the course takes a lot longer because we have to dedicate a couple weeks first for gaining balance, because there's a lot you need to learn, you need to trust, the fear issue, all of that has to come to play in you learning at this point, because you've never ridden a bicycle. So there's nothing to remember. If you've ridden a bicycle before, you're scared initially when you get on the motorcycle. Yes, this is a motor-driven two-wheeler, but it begins to come back to you. It begins to come back to you when the bike starts to move. You're like, okay, this is it. Get the feeling and all of that. But if it's foreign to you, it's almost impossible at first. It's fear will take over more than anything else. And lastly here, have you ever ridden a motorcycle? This is also a very important question, because if you've ever ridden a motorcycle, you may think, oh, I'm coming to the school, maybe I don't need as many weeks, and all of that. But we tend to teach you from scratch, because if, like the topic says, if you learn from the street back in the days, there's a lot of things that you have learned that would have been bad, for your riding. And if you feel the need, to come back, maybe you stop riding, maybe you rode maybe 20 years. I get a lot of this. Reading the road when we were in uni, it's 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and they want to learn now, they have their life in order and they want to ride again, but they feel because they're mature enough to think a lot about safety, they decide that, okay, let me go and learn properly this time. Maybe that was useful exuberance back then, so let me learn properly. Then they come with their own skills. They usually come with their own skills, which they have to unlearn. So I usually start from scratch, so that they learn everything from scratch, and we try to chip off or shave off all those excesses, the skills that they have that are detrimental to their riding. So moving next to psychology of the learner. Yes, psychology of the learner is the major issue we usually have when teaching is, fear and doubt. It's a Niger thing. It's a Nigerian thing, whereby a lot of riders, a lot of Nigerians rather, we work based off of fear. From our religion and all of that, we usually use things like that, fear, to make people do the right thing. So most family members, as a deterrent to riding a motorcycle, will tell you about, oh, this person that broke his leg, this person that died, this, that, and so everyone has this fear of motorcycles, like, oh, if I ride a motorcycle, this would happen to me, this would happen to me, I could break my leg, I could die. Why would I waste my money on getting a motorcycle? But deep down, they really like motorcycles and they want to learn this thing. So they have those. In fact, a lot of my students, even while in training, I find out that they're still, until they actually do their road test, they're not yet even sure that they're making the right choice. They paid for the riding school, they're coming for class, but in their head, they're still thinking, oh my God, am I really doing this? Am I really going to be a biker? Yes, I've seen my friend he passed out of the school and all of that, but am I really going to do this? Until we go out and they're like, wow, that, I could actually achieve this. So we try to start to change their thinking. Fear should not be something you take on a motorcycle every day. You need to convert that fear to being logical. You need to be able to identify danger and act logically or act accordingly to the danger. Fear doesn't even do anything for you. Fear mostly breeds panic when you ride. So you want to remove the fear and replace it with logic. You want to replace it with planning. The first thing you learn is that nothing is just anything once you're on two wheels. When you ride, you're constantly what's it called? You're constantly doing recon. That's what I call it, information gathering. That's what you do when you ride a motorcycle. You're constantly doing information gathering. You're looking straight ahead. So I have a way that I teach. I do sight, sound, and feel, right? Sight means that you're looking where you're going, right? Sight is only for what is up ahead. You're gathering information, you're letting your eyes do the searching, your brain will take in what it needs, the information it needs, because all this information, we all have it. You don't need to actually be taught to say, oh, this you need to move left or you need to move right when there's a car in front of you. You know what to do because you walk, you probably drive, you do all these things daily and you're not panicking. When you see someone blocking you, you don't freeze up. But because you're on two wheels, it's something new to you. All the orientation you've had all your life has to do with fear when it comes to two wheels. So that just kicks in once you get on two wheels. And instead of, doing the right thing, acting logically, you first allow fear kicking and you panic. So these are the things that we do a lot of talking before. I remember a couple of times students are, they're there on the first day and they're already thinking, oh, we're actually learning a lot. We're not even yet on the bike, and those are the perks of going to a structured environment to learn how to ride a motorcycle. We're going to do a lot of brain cycling, so to say. We're going to get your mind in the right place so that you understand, that things should not be feared. You should just learn to understand. Now, overconfidence also is an issue. That's number two. Overconfidence is an issue. You have some people, they come and they're like, oh, I'm ready to do this. I always feel like they're overcompensating. They're fearful as well, but they come with this confidence. They feel like, oh, I need to be courageous when I come to learn. I shouldn't be scared. I should just do it. Anything that will happen will happen. That's a no-no from me. Don't have that mindset on two wheels. It's not a case of anything that will happen. What would happen, you should be able to preempt it. You should be able to, that is why I say riding, you're doing a lot of information gathering. You get on two wheels and you are constantly looking at the things that you see normally every day. I always give an example of a bus, especially in Lagos. I don't really know how it is in other states, but especially in Lagos, a bus is pulling into a bus stop and the next thing is calling their route and he pulls into the bus stop. The next thing, you fill up the space, the void he left. And next thing, in 3 seconds, he pulls back out and he knocks you over. And you don't realize that you should have been watching out for this. First things first, this is normal in Lagos. This is a normal occurrence in Lagos. It's nothing new. So it's not something you should get hit, you should get struck down by. You shouldn't get hit by a bus that pulls into a bus stop and pulls out all of a sudden. So ideally, I see a bus pulling into a bus stop and it's calling a route. In seconds, I'm looking at the bus stop. I'm looking at how many people are responding to that route it's calling. The second I see that people aren't responding, it means nobody is trying to get into that bus. That bus is going to pull out. It's not going to look to the side and say, oh, I just pulled in, I should check before I go back out. He's never going to do that. And there's nothing we're going to do for now that can change that. So it's on us to understand this and not be overconfident on the road. You just see a space and you pull in. I always say this as well. If you don't see an out, don't go in. Make sure you're free to go before you pull into a space. Don't just fill a space the way Okadas just do. You see a space, you just put your head in. You don't know your next exit. And the next thing, someone wasn't paying attention and he didn't realize you pulled into that space and he knocks you over. So I say this also, courage or confidence is fear that has said its prayers and done its homework. You shouldn't just be courageous blindly. You shouldn't get on a bike and start stunting on the highway and say you know what you're doing. Did you do your homework? Did you make sure it was clear enough? Are you with a bunch of bikers that are surrounding you, protecting you? Ideally, stunting should be done in an enclosed or controlled environment. So that is even a no-no on the highway. But even when you find yourself in those situations, you find yourself in those groups that do this, you must do your homework. Don't just be overconfident and just say, oh, I'm doing it with the gangster riders out there. It's our thing. You must put safety barriers in place when you do this type of thing. That is being courageous. That is being sensible. It's not enough to just be sensible or to be courageous when in fact you're just being foolish. Of course, from the foundation, you must teach your new riders, all the gear all the time, ADGAT, all the gear all the time. From foundation, it's key. If you have this mentality from the beginning, from the beginning in riding school, I see no reason why you're going to go out there and you're just going to misbehave. You're going to say, oh, I'm just going down the road. I don't need a helmet. I don't need a jacket. You've learned this thing. Of course, I'm just touching on the surface of all this. The topics that we talk on, in total, we don't play around with it. So these things stick with you. I know a lot of students who come and they're writing and they message me at the end of the day, like, oh, this thing you said, I remembered it on the road. So these things stick to students in a structured training environment. And it's amazing. I never, when I started, I never thought of it to that extent. I was just doing it because it's something that I did research, I learned, I got a certification in. But it's something that sticks to students, to writers. When they're writing, they come back and tell you, oh, this thing you said, maybe I saw this scenario, that thing we learned in class, it came in, it kicked in, and so these things are things that you can't get on the street. You have to learn. And we say in safety, when it comes to safety, regardless of biking or whatever, safety, when it comes to safety, a lot of lessons in safety have been paid for by people with blood or their lives. So there's no point. And when you go to riding school, there's a potpourri of all this information, all these learnings that that are at our disposal that we use to teach. So there's no point getting on the streets and making your own fresh mistakes when these mistakes have happened before and you could have known beforehand, and you just, you breeze through that scenario. You don't need to make that kind of mistake. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can, Sugar.
Okay. I'm not used to giving lectures where it's not interactive and people can talking. Yeah. So next is the training area. The training area, I mean, of course, when we talk about, you can't talk about a safety training course and you don't have a safe area. I'll give you a little gist about when I was during COVID and the stadium, our training ground was closed, and I was looking for, because during COVID, when COVID had eased up, of course, the stadium hadn't opened. We had a lot of people who thought, the same mentality of, oh, I've always wanted to do this, and COVID came, we could have died. I'm ready to do this. You know what? I'm ready to learn to ride a bicycle, a motorcycle, anything that happens, let it happen. I'm ready to ride. And of course, we had to, from the first slides, we had to change that mentality. It's not a do or die affair. Riding a motorcycle is not a do or die affair. At Safe Rider, we have a saying, more life on two wheels. It's, in fact, when you learn to ride, you increase your your lifespan, because a lot of worries, a lot of stress that you have goes down the drain by just riding a motorcycle alone. Then, of course, if you're not stressed out sitting in traffic every day, of course, riding would ease your stress. So, of course, a controlled environment is key. You must get yourself a controlled environment to actually teach people safety. A parking lot that can be cordoned off, with cones and all of that, and or a deserted road, quiet road that you can also cordon off. And of course, please get your permissions, get your approval, make sure it's something you can do in that area. You're not a security threat to that environment or what have you. Next, so those are just images of the trainings going on. If you watch the video, you will see people just learning to do just basic U-turns. And so imagine this on a road where there are other people, they can't concentrate. You have people walking around, cars going by, they can't concentrate. The next thing that there's target fixation, they run into a car, so this is a controlled environment. Anything that happens here can be managed. We have a first aid box in school. I mean, mistakes can happen, as you can see in the video. These things can happen when you're training, and look at that. It was just a minor breach of concentration, lack of concentration, and everyone was fine. So these are things that are important when you're training, people on safety. So it's important to have a training area that is safe and is cordoned off. Next, that is key, is training motorcycles. The training motorcycles must be of low capacity. They must be of low capacity. Ideally, 125s. 125s. You have 125s in different types of categories of motorcycles. You have them in street sports. I think I've seen a cruiser in maybe like a 250 at least. So just so that your students also have the varying types of motorcycles. Of course, we all know motorcycles are purpose built. Same way we have sedans, we have sports cars, we have trucks, we have monster cars, dirt bikes. The same with trucks and sports cars and all SUVs. The same way we have bikes. In bikes, you have your sports bikes, you have your street bikes, you have your cruisers, you have your dirt bikes, you have your sports tourers. So they are purpose built. So if, of course, like I said in the beginning, if you're coming to learn to ride, you need to know why you want to ride and what type of riding you intend to do. So that should intimate you on what type of motorcycle you get. And of course, the school should try to provide these. You don't want someone getting his own bike to come and learn. For me, most times they usually even get things in the range of 600, which is what we allow at the riding school. If you graduate from our riding school, you're not allowed to go to anything more than tops of 700 street bike or adventure bike. You don't do anything more than that for at least 6 months to a year. That is the highest capacity. I always advise the smaller, the better. Most great riders started small. That is what you need to understand. These days, there's a lot of disposable cash. People come in. When I started, we're getting the bikes our money can afford. Now these days, someone learns today, he wants to get his dream bike, he wants to get a Hayabusa. He just finished from riding school, I wants to get a Hayabusa. This is never a good idea. Never a good idea. You have people like that who are here, they're doing fine, but they can't, if they're going to be honest, if they're going to be honest, there's no way in the beginning stage of riding they enjoyed their motorcycle. You have people on smaller bikes going past them easily, not over speeding, going past them easily and enjoying their ride, but they're always trying to suppress the power of the motorcycle because they've gotten on a bike that is way too powerful. They learned on a small training bike. They understood that. They feel the power of the bike they've gotten, and they know that this power is beyond them. But of course, maybe ego or whatever, they don't want to get rid of it. It's what they wanted, and that's it. So, but they don't. It takes a longer time, so it reduces or it slows down your growth as a rider. Maybe in 2-3 months, you should have been able to do a number of maneuvers, execute a number of maneuvers. It may even deter you from going out sometimes because you know that this bike, every time you get on it, you need to be very careful. And that is not what you want to do. That's not the mindset you want to have on a motorcycle. Not the part of being very careful, but being careful because of the motorcycle you're riding. It means that you're riding a bike that is beyond your skill set. And there's no point in doing that. So a low capacity bike is what you need when you finish and even during the training. But of course, during the training, a lower capacity bike, a lighter bike. So they're never worried about weight, power. They're comfortable. They feel the bike. They almost feel like, oh, it's so flimsy. Then it starts moving and they're okay. They're not uncomfortable. They make little mistakes on the training ground, and like the one you saw in the video, and it's forgiving. Nothing crazy happens. Of course, imagine the little mistake that you saw in the video happening on a sports bike or 1006 on the training ground. You would have hit the other guy and you might have gone. It would have been a lot more worse. So these are the things you need to watch out for when teaching. So interactive class, yes. You must cater for this, when you teach in a school, you must cater for this. For me, 90% of safety in riding is here. The interactive class, the teachings, it's because riding is mostly decision making. Safety in riding is mostly decision making. You can have a rider who's very skillful, who went through riding school, did pretty well, did all the exercises from your cone avoidance test to your emergency braking to your slow riding. You aced all of this and goes out with some arrogance and makes bad mistakes outside. And you have someone who was struggling in class, managed to pass the class. Once you do your road test and you're certified okay to hit the street, you're certified okay to hit the street, you will always improve your riding on the street. But once you keep certain things in your head, you keep safety on your mind, you adhere to things learned in the interactive class, it means that you are riding, what's the word now? You're riding within your skill limits or your skill set. And you are fine once you do that. You don't see anybody doing certain things and you want to follow suit. You need to think, this person is doing this and I'm not on this level yet. I will build my confidence, I'll build my skill set to that point. But for now, this is my skill set. This is how I should ride. Hence, our statement in riding, ride your ride. Don't ride another person's ride. Because someone is doing riding a certain way, doing certain things, doesn't mean you should do it. If the person is faced with some type of danger or hazard, how they handle it, you may not be able to handle it that way. So you must always think about this when you ride. So that's why the interactive class is very important. You get to ask a lot of questions. things that because obviously once you start learning to ride, you start thinking like a rider when you're in your car. You're thinking, you see an Okada pass, you see a biker go by, you see a near miss, you're wondering, oh, what would I have done in this situation? This is going to be me soon. I hope I can handle this, all of that. So it's an interactive class that also works on their confidence, their riding skills, their thinking on the streets. One of the things is situational awareness. Like I said earlier, about the bus, pulling into a bus stop, that's situational awareness. It's like seeing a downfall once again on a bridge, and you have the bridge breakers, is vibrating, it's giving a shock to the bus every time they go over. I know that I will never go past the downfall on the side where the door is, because I know doors can drop. Maybe ideally that should be like maybe 10%, 15% based on Nigerian MOT and all of that. Maybe like a 10 to 15% chance that door will drop, but it could drop. So I wouldn't risk it. And if I'm going to go past there, I know I'm not going to click that beside that bus or go past it when it's going over the breaker. So these are things that you learn in the school, you wouldn't learn anywhere else. You try to learn on YouTube. YouTube does not have downfalls. YouTube does not have, what's it called, potholes. YouTube does not have a lot of things that are peculiar to learning, to riding in Nigeria. So you need to be aware of all these things, and only in a school would you learn these things. Lane positioning, knowing where to put yourself on the road, learn how to drive. Tend to think, oh, on a motorcycle, maybe you're only meant to filter and all of that. Sometimes you're not filtering, but where do you position yourself? These things you learn. Rider positioning at stoplights. Stoplights can be tricky. You think that, okay, this is where I position myself on the road, in the middle of the road, because you own the road as well, like any other motor vehicle, you own the road. At a stoplight, for safety reasons, it's always best to move to the side. It's always best to find yourself on probably if they're closer to a culvert, so that even if someone is chasing you and they don't see you stop on time, they don't run into you. Even if the brake fails, you are not in anybody's path. If there's a way to stay to the side at a traffic light or a stoplight, always do this. You learn about blind spots, use of car mirrors for information gathering as well. The motor vehicle side mirrors, they're not just for the car. As a biker, you can use this to get information of what's going on in the car. When you're riding, a lot of times, sometimes you see a car dilly-dallying on the road. It's not half of the time. Motor cages they're on their phone. Either they're texting or they have the phone to their ear. With the side mirrors, you can see this, you can get this information. And once you have this information, like I said, information gathering, once you have this information, it will be ludicrous of you to go right beside that car and hang around. You already have the information about this car. You can tell that this person does not have the capability to be safe. He's using the phone. He's being distracted by the phone. So you know that the onus is on you to keep yourself safe. He's never going to be able to do that because he's not concentrating. So you have this information, you give him a lot of space before going past. Don't go past, then he hits you, then you say, oh, you got hit by a car and the guy was on his phone, blah, blah, blah. You saw this, so you have that information. There are a few other things that you can watch out for when you're getting information. This always strikes up a laugh in the school. You see two gays, in front. They're driving on a Saturday. There's no way you see two gays in the front of a car and they're quiet. They're gisting about whatnot, and they're not concentrating. So you need to be cautious. there are different things that you watch out for in a car. You know, you've seen people, you've seen certain type of people. You look into the car through the back windshield. You see children. You know, you see children. They're playing around in the back. They would distract the parents. You see people that seem like youths in the back of the car. They're probably having a lot of fun in that car. They will be distracted. So there are little things that you pick up from looking through the mirror, looking through the side mirror, looking through the back windshield. You know, you gather information and you use that to proceed. Emergency braking is a key part of, I mean, if braking is like the most important part of riding. You know, if you can't stop, you know, there's a big problem. If you can't stop, there's a big problem. Everybody can throttle. Everybody can throttle. A newbie can get on a bike. They're getting on the bike for the first time. They'll open that throttle and they will lock it there. And the problem is not them locking it there. The problem is that you can't stop. They've locked it there, they panicked. So stopping is the next thing. And this is for everyone, whether you're a newbie or, you know, you must know how to brake. So emergency braking, knowing how to emergency brake, you know, I realized that a lot of old riders, you know, they grab their brakes with all fingers. You know, it's something most of us didn't learn to ride, you know, through structured learning. We learn by ourselves. So we manage, you know, it may have in the earlier stages, it may have caused problems and you've learned to fix it, but still using all fingers. But the actual way to hold your front brakes is with 2 fingers or 1 finger. You know, this allows you, there's a psychology part of it. You know, when you squeeze, when you pull a fist, you know, like this, you pull a fist when you're when you're angry, you're tense, you panic, you tend to pull a fist. So psychologically, whenever you pull a fist, you know, you tend to do a lot more than is necessary. You know, because you've been riding for a while, you may have learned how to manage that, but and maybe you've made your mistakes in the past as well. But you know, as a learner, you want to learn it the right way, an easier way of, you know, once you're able to use your 2 fingers or 1 finger, you're able to manage and apply. And when we ride, when we're braking, I like to use the word apply. You know, it's a lot more subtle. You never pull on your brakes. You apply your brakes. You want to apply, and as you apply, you get what you want. Even in the case of emergency braking, whereby it's sudden, you see an obstacle and you want to just get on, you're scared. You know, like I said before, we also try to work on that. We work on fear. We just work on logic. We don't work with fear. We work on fear so that you begin to act with logic. You see an obstacle, you start thinking, where do I put myself? You don't immediately panic and you're in fear of what could happen when you still have the power to make sure nothing does happen. You know, you just need to change your thinking and your psychology. So you apply your brakes when you're riding. You apply until you get, even when in an emergency, you apply faster, but still you apply. You never pull. Once you pull, you've stopped your tires, and stopping your tires is not always the solution, because if you're coming with a momentum that is too great, stopping your tires doesn't stop you. The momentum, the power you're coming with still has to go somewhere. So you need to apply your brakes gently. Yeah, this is just images from interactive classes, emergency braking class, positioning and all of that. Then lastly, another great reason to go to school is, the community, the alumni community, the networking. You will meet a lot of great people. I mean, I've met a lot of all of you, fantastic people, and it's in this community that you meet them. Yes, you may be able to meet people even if you didn't go to a school, but the good thing about the school is the alumni. There's nothing like having a foundation that is common. We use especially in Nigeria, we use the term common sense often, but we would realize that common sense is only common if we have the same upbringing, same foundation. And it's good to know that, you know, you're coming from the school and the other people are coming from the school as well. Maybe not even your school, another school, but there's, of course, if the training is being regulated, there's a common safety standard, you know, that everyone should learn. And that's when common sense can actually come in, because, you know, you learn the same things, so you're going to do the same things on the road. I hear a lot of students who come and say, oh, I rode with this bunch of people last time, they were ridiculous on the road, they were just doing all sorts of things, I couldn't relate and all of that. Yeah, because they don't have, and you are thinking, oh, they were being stupid, or they don't have common sense. But no, they can't have that knowledge, they can't have that sense, because they don't have the training you have, you know. So that brings us to the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sugar. Thank you so much. Very, very informative. So quickly, we are fast done with time, but I'm just going to take one question. And if you have questions, you can raise your hands and you would have less than a minute to ask your question. So I'm just going to ask one. Somebody asked on the chat forum, is it advisable to sell a bike to a learner before telling him or her about safety and safety kits?
Is it advisable to sell
a bike to a learner, or somebody that hasn't learned how to ride in the first place, without properly educating the person about what riding is about?
Well, based on you know, the fact that, I mean, first things first, the person selling the bike, did he learn of that? That's a no for me. You shouldn't sell a bike to someone without, you know, at least intimating them on safety. You know, you need to tell them what they need to get. You know, so that's no. You know, so of course, like I said, the school would have taught you that, you know, that you don't do that. You're putting someone at risk. You know, if you do that, you just sell someone a bike and you don't even tell them anything about safety. You just want to get the bike off your hands because you want to upgrade your bike or whatever. You know, you need to think, we ride for each other. Sorry, I left that out of the, we ride for each other all the time. The fact that the biking population is growing is partly because of the schools that were available. You know, wives are learning that, oh, people can ride safely. So they are letting their husbands come to learn. Husbands are doing the same. They're finding out that females are riding and they're riding safely, nothing is happening to them. So they're allowing their wives come to learn even when they don't ride. You know, so by the time we start having issues all over again with crashes and, you know, people riding without gear, it's going to bring a shift in the whole biking space. You know, people will start hearing, because we're very few, we're a minority. We're a minority, and once one person has a crash, it's like the whole biking community crashed, because, you know, everybody knows somebody that knows us. So it's always important that when you are doing stuff, always think about the greater good of the riding community. Don't just do it because you're trying to get a bike off your hands.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we have Photo Daddy's hand up. Before I go back to the chat group, I'll have Photo Daddy go ahead. Photo Daddy, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. And well done. I have a comment, not a question. And that comment is for all of us, it's for everyone. My background, we were running the riding school in Lagos for over 15 years as trained and certified instructors. So I think we know a thing or two. And everyone who is involved in training of riders is making so many sacrifices. So my comment is to all other riders. When you finished from the riding school you went to, could you consider giving back to the community, not just to the community, to the riding school also? it's not, it's nice to hang around on the training days and stuff like that. But what's even nicer is to support the riding school in any way you can. If you meet your instructor and say, you know what, I'm available on this day, on that day, how is it that I can help you? Because all of us who were training, are training, and we train in the future, I can guarantee you we're not doing it for money. We're doing it because we want to give to the community, want to help people get into riding. And so my comment is to all graduates of riding school, all experienced riders. Don't go into the riding school space and give your own exploits, stories of your exploits. No, if you want to support, talk to the instructor. AY, what can I do? Sugar, how can I come in and support what you're doing? Do you need me? And that way we help the riding schools, we improve ourselves, and we get better. So I'm encouraging, I'm sure AY, I'm sure you benefit from something like that. And I'm challenging all of us, guys, let's do more to support the riding schools. Let's do more as experienced riders, as new converts, new trainees, whatever it is. You have something that the community can benefit from. Talk to your instructor, key in, and be a part of the experience. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that. I would like to add to that. I'm fortunate.
Thank you so much.
I have I've had great students, that actually do what he said. They come back, oh, what can we want to stay with you? I tell them all the time that I will enjoy it for as long as I can, because I know once the trips start happening, Saturdays are for riding, Sundays are for riding. Those are the days I teach. It's hard for, I know that it's hard for students to, or alumni to sacrifice their Saturdays and Sundays to come and help out. But, I still, once in a while, I still have a couple of people that do these things. And, I'm grateful for that, bless their hearts and all of that. So thank you very much for that, for today. That's a valid one.
Awesome. I think it's also something the national end should also look into, on how to support the various riding schools, certified riding. Let me add that, certified riding schools in the nation. Very, very important. So we'll take the last question from Mr. OC. And so Mr. OC, over to you. Please keep it short and simple, straight to the point.
Okay, thank you very much, President. Well done, Mr. AY. Thank you, guys. Mine is also like a contribution. I had already asked my question because it's common with our bikers. They seem to sell their bikes first before they want to find out if you're okay to ride. And somebody that is eager to ride would not know when he or she would tell you, I can ride. They can ride and you're not certified that if you can ride or not. I train too. I'm a certified trainer too. I train my people from the office. To add to that, there are some weak points we have to discover while training whoever you're training. Now, my instructor did me sometime when I was being trained. What he used first when we were sent to the training school, he welcomed us with 2 bottles of vodka. And he was monitoring to know those who are our colleagues. And our training base was close to where they have a female hostel. Also using that to monitor the humanizers and those who will be easily distracted. So, when you're training somebody—
I will need to know this with training school.
when you're training somebody and the person is not focused, you're pouring water where it won't pour. So, also, we have to observe why we train those we are training, if they are catching what we are training or they are just doing it in a hurry just to go back and get their bikes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Cool one. AY, any last words before I wrap this off?
Okay, so this are usually my closing remarks when you finish from the school. It just has to do with The fact that, certain people come to the school and they just think, oh, I came to learn to ride. I always try to remind them, you're part of the community now. You're an alumni, and people are watching out for you now, because you go out there and you're dressed up with your riding gear. You look the part. Nobody knows that you just finished last week or you just finished 2 months ago. You look the part. You look like you've been riding and this is because of what you've learned, all the gear all the time. So you look the part. You look like a MotoGP rider. And, people tend to listen when you speak, for whatever reason. They just feel like, oh, you're a strange person, you're a biker. So whatever sphere of influence that you have, try to, change the narrative of Nigeria. When people come to the school, the first thing I tell them that there's nothing Nigerian about how I do things. Timing, all of safety, all of that. There's nothing Nigerian. I don't try. Those things that you say, oh, man, Lagos we did, now man, Nigeria we did. I don't do that. It's strictly business for me. You do the right thing, and that's what matters. So whatever space you're in, try to let the fact that you're a biker, you complain about Nigeria, but you need to change the person in the mirror first. So when you go out, know that you're going out as a biker, you're representing the community. You can change people. Simple things like you're stopping at the traffic light, always do this. Don't go on the BRT lane. Don't be aggressive to people that almost hit you. If you can park them to have a conversation with them, please do it. If you can't, just let it go. Whenever they see bikers, you see you arguing, they see you hitting on a car, all they see is a biker was attacking this person. So even in the office, be kind to people. People look at you now, you're a biker, and they think that you're a crazy person. Then they come up and they say, oh, this man, he's a biker, but he's such a gentleman. He doesn't even behave like a biker. There's a stereotype of a biker, and I feel like we need to change this stereotype. We're doing a good job of it already. Some of us, but some of us, especially the newer riders, they're coming in and they're seeing a lot of things that have been in place, and they think that it got here, just by accident or by chance. We need to try and educate a lot more people to always do the right thing. You're representing a space that is stereotyped, and we need to just be gentlemen out there. Yeah, and that's it. I mean,
thank
sorry,
you. Yeah, go ahead.
Look at the bad gang. Look at the BSI. They're products of the riding school, and you can see the things they're doing out there today. So there's a lot of charity, there's a lot of tourism. They're part of the safety week. So those are the kind of things that we want to be involved in. Not bad press out there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sugar. Aisha, I'm going to give you 10 seconds. 10 seconds, please.
No problem. This is just real quick. For those of us that decide to sell your bikes or sell bikes to people, please take a minute, have a conversation with whoever you're selling the bike to. If it's a very powerful bike, a higher up CC, do yourself that brotherhood. Do your brother that be your brother's keeper, and try as much as possible not to sell a higher capacity bike to a beginner, to a learner, without actually doing the proper justification, making sure they go to the right school and actually have the right training. That is the most important thing we can do for our fellow bikers. We want the biking community to grow and to grow safely. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aisha. So we've come to the end of this event that has ran from Monday up till this point. First of all, I want to say a big thank you to every facilitator, from Buki to Photo Daddy, to AY Sugar, to Inyang, to Dr. Boma, to Dikat, to every single individual that has facilitated this event. And also big thanks to all the moderators that took out time to be part of this. And one more thing, a big thank you to every single person that took out the time to log on to the link and be a part of these sessions. We had wished that we would have more persons log on, but this is the first in the biking community in Nigeria, and we hope to have more sessions like this going forward. I know a couple of you have asked if we're going to have these sessions, if they were recorded. Yes, they were recorded, and we would have the recorded files shared on our various platforms so that it will be like a referral, and then we can go back to these videos and watch the training over and over again. Once again, a big thank you to every single biker. Make sure we ride responsibly out there. Do not forget that this program was brought to you by Bikers in Nigeria, supported by Bikers Safety Initiative and SCAN. Thank you, every single person. Make sure while you ride out there, ride responsibly, ride safely, rubber side down all the way. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and have a lovely night rest.
Thank you. Well done, Mengi.
Thank you.
Good night, President.
Good night.